Hello, the internet, and welcome to another episode of The Spit Take. My name is Jack O'Brien. I'm the editor-in-chief of Cracked, and it turns out movies are like magic. Really slow, insultingly obvious magic tricks, and we, the audience, are like toddlers who cannot figure out where our nose went. We say plot holes like it's a bad thing. Especially you, you're all, plot holes. But great filmmakers hide plot holes all over their movies that are impossible to see the 100th time you watch the film. They know about blind spots we're not even aware of, and they exploit them over and over again, like a metaphorical biker orgy at a school for the blind that I wouldn't think about for too long. Remember in Batman 7, The Dark Knight Rises, how Bane robs the Gotham Stock Exchange? Well, keeping in mind that Gotham's based on New York, where the exchange closes at 4 p.m., what time would you guess he makes his getaway? While you're doing that math, King Kong. Same question. What time do you think the show premiered? Based on the busy streets, massive crowds, and a general familiarity with the time things start at, you might assume 8 p.m., 9 at the latest. Nope, it's 5 a.m., because less than an hour of nonstop rampaging later, the would-be Broadway leading man is ruining his chances at a Tony in front of a beautiful sunrise. Even though it's the second detail of a movie scene that gets written, Movie Time of Day puts the illogical in chronological. Humankind celebrating their Armageddon independence? It should be sunny. Yes, on both sides of the globe. Movies are like the soundstage in The Truman Show, and you're this dipshit who doesn't notice the sun and stars always seem to provide appropriate mood lighting. If Christoph Nolan needs Batman to foil a robbery that takes place before 4 p.m., he sends Bane through a tunnel that magically makes the sun go down, because he knows you don't need the time of day to make sense. What you need is to never see Batman riding his motorcycle around in broad daylight like a middle-aged guy in a Viagra commercial.
Your doctor. Find out how at Viagra.com.
The stupidity of the movie-watching brain was first laid bare to me while editing Mark Hill's article about a seemingly unmissable plot hole at the end of Cloverfield. I hadn't seen the movie, but I knew the basics. 300-foot-tall monster, the Cloverfield, destroys bridges with a flick of its tail, decapitates statues of liberty, sheds Doberman Pinscher-sized spider babies like a hailstorm. Bad at blending into a crowd, in other words. But Mark and every review I read claimed that at the climax, the Cloverfield suddenly appears behind the protagonists in the middle of Central Park like it teleported. How could anyone miss something so stupid? I remember thinking muscularly as I poured myself a glass of water, and that's when it hit me. The glass of water fell from my hand in slow motion. Jurassic Park. It was right there in the climax. Dr. Grant, the kids, surrounded by raptors. And just when you think all is lost and he'll have to push the kids down and run away while they're being eaten, the T-Rex comes out of nowhere like Mr. Miyagi and saves the day. The T-Rex makes miniature earthquakes with each step. We spent the previous 5 minutes holding our breath with the kids one room over. How did nobody in the movie, or in the audience, or in the pack of apex predators hear it coming? Even if the T-Rex was standing completely still in the lobby that whole time, maybe wearing a Panama hat and sunglasses pretending to be a mannequin, it still doesn't explain how the T-Rex got inside in the first place. Did they build a giant T-Rex-sized door in the visitor center? Because if so, that was a bad decision. The real question was how Spielberg knew we wouldn't ask any of those questions. He gambled one of the most expensive movies ever on a trick we stopped falling for before we mastered the ability to not poop and pee all over ourselves. Outside of any drug experiments that got away from you, that is the last time you lacked object permanence, the sense that things still exist when you can't see them. Which is why Peekaboo was such a mindfuck. Every time the adult covered and uncovered their face, you thought they were blinking in and out of existence. Roughly translated, a baby enjoying Peekaboo is saying, "Holy shit, I legitimately think you are a mystical wizard, you motherfucker. How are you doing that?" Then a few months later, your brain figured out you couldn't make the world disappear by closing your eyes, and you were like, oh great, this bitch again. But your movie-watching brain never makes that leap. Every time something appears out of nowhere, it's just, wizard! We never learned to ask, wait, did Michael Myers spend hours interior decorating that home with dead teenagers? Wait, they put Carl in the body bag with a machine gun?
The hostages in this building will be taken to the roof.
Quick thought exercise. Think about your favorite action hero. All right, now, if you're not picturing John McClane, go watch Die Hard until you have the courage to fight your father for having failed you. Yes, you too, ladies. Now that we've gotten rid of those maniacs, you ever notice that McClane spends a lot of his time having sarcastic conversations with himself?
The fuck didn't you stop him, John? 'Cause then you'd be dead too, asshole. Girls, I million terrorists in the world, and I gotta kill one with feet smaller than my sister.
He has to do that because, well, first of all, he has to resist the always enticing mid-terror attack jerk sesh, but also because he's the protagonist, the hook that pulls the audience through to the end. If we stop identifying with him, the movie loses us. So he's got to answer our questions before we're even done asking them. Hey, why didn't he save Mr. Takagi? Does he have some problem with Japanese people?
Because then you'd be dead too, asshole.
Oh, right, moving on. Protagonists like the responsible single parent who has to pull off the balance of likable and stability. The villain is the deadbeat dad who sweeps into town once a month and takes you to the baseball game and gets drunk and doesn't even have to remember to take you home. The villain only has to be fun. We don't even ask that his lies make sense. For instance, Hans Gruber, great character, staggeringly full of shit. When someone asks him,
What kind of terrorists are you?
and Hans says,
Who said we were terrorists?
the dumb-sounding, echoey voice in your head says, whoa, super badass, when it should have said, wait, didn't you say you were terrorists? Isn't pretending to be terrorists the central strategy of your entire plan? If the crime you're staging as a distraction is worse than the crime you're actually committing, not a good plan. That's why pickpockets stage innocent-seeming collisions with people they're trying to rob instead of pretending to rape and murder them. We don't think about that because Hans does his planning on Deadbeat Dad Island, right next to the football field-sized corkboard the Joker must have needed to plan the 500-part kidnapping, traffic-diverting, rocket-launching plot to get captured by Batman, which relies on stuff like the Batmobile happening to have a motorcycle hidden inside of it, and a successful cell phone bomb surgery. The guy from Skyfall is also there, figuring out how to predict the exact moment Q will upload his virus to the MI6 network down to the split second so he can time his escape to crash that train into Bond. The T-Rex is there too, roller skating around with Cloverfield. It's all related, I realized as the glass of water shattered on the kitchen floor. And on the bottom of one of the pieces of glass, it said,
I'll never see him again. Back when I was picking beans in Guatemala, we used to make fresh coffee.
I know you thought.
it's one of the most famous plot twists in movie history. It won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, and it makes no f***ing sense. The greatest criminal mastermind on the planet is, first of all, a mind-blowing method actor, but secondly, a terrible criminal mastermind. He spent the few hours it took his lawyer to post bail voluntarily dropping so many self-incriminating clues that a detective who's not very bright takes about a minute and a half to figure out who he was. The whole reason he emerged from the shadowy underworld was to kill the only guy who knew what he looked like. And while he's there, he makes sure the police can get the same information just by turning around and looking at all the stuff in his office. Fine, second most famous twist ending of the past 20 years. Bruce Willis, spoiler alert, is a ghost. That's why his wife wouldn't talk to him. He thought it was because she was mad at him for getting shot in the stomach for some reason, but it was really because she doesn't see dead people. We're too busy thinking in exclamation points, we never stop to ask why he thought nobody else was talking to him. What was the conversation like when Bruce Willis is sitting alone in a room with Cole's mom? Also, who hired him? Does he just walk up to kids in churches and start doling out psychological advice? Okay, actually the most famous plot twist, Darth Vader telling Luke, I am your father. Great moment. Nothing that happens in Star Wars up to that point makes any sense if that's true. Luke was living on Darth Vader's home planet with Darth Vader's real last name? Why didn't Vader care about harnessing those sweet Force-soaked Skywalker genes before this sword fight? How'd Obi-Wan Kenobi manage to hide from Vader for 20 years by posing as Ben Kenobi, the guy living down the road from Darth Vader's relatives on Darth Vader's home planet? Because Darth Vader doesn't mean Dark Father. George Lucas just made that shit up. He had no idea Darth Vader was Luke's father until he wrote the end of the movie. And because movies are written in the same order we watch them in, so they don't have to make sense in reverse order. But mostly because we don't judge movies by how smart they are or whether they make sense. The only thing that matters is that they're the right kind of stupid. Plot twist. You burned.
Roll sound. Roll cameras. And action.
Yo, MS Word, reppin' for Cracked here. Improvise and say you better subscribe, dear. It should be clear by now, you chumps. Subscribe, you're gonna be down in the dumps, cause we don't rap, we make comedy. I'm rapping to support the comedy that we make. And I'm gonna do it in only one take swing. That's my name. Rap, subscribe, this is really lame. Please let me stop it. I can't stop till you subscribe. You better click the button, cause I feel like I wanna die. Please click the button. Please.
It's not true. That's impossible.